TNMP, the Nerdy Misfit Podcast, with your hosts, Connor O'Neill and Matthew Hughes.
Hello, another episode of the Nerdy Misfit Podcast.
What's up, everybody? We are back again with part 2 of an episode series that will only be 3 parts.
Yeah, well, it might end up being more of a series for other things. I think we might do more tier list discussion. I think it's a good way of starting a discussion.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure.
Because it's not, I feel like we could probably fill out a tier list relatively quick if we were just doing it on our own. But I think having a little bit more of a discussion of why not, bringing in both of our own kind of tier lists as well, gives us a better catalyst for actually doing a podcast. So, as you guys can see, my lovely screen, or I guess it's our lovely screen. It's not really. It's a shared laptop.
It's a shared laptop
between Matt and I. But yeah, we are here again. For you guys, this will be probably 2-3 weeks potentially between the first part and the second part, and God knows how long till the third part. One. But for Matt and I, we actually did not just record this right off the rip.
No,
right,
been a full week.
So it's been about a week for us. So we will have to. We left off at Skypea. So we'll be starting off at Long Ring, Long Island. If you guys are unfamiliar with what exactly we are doing a tier list for the One Piece arcs. Now this could go for whether you've seen the anime or whether you go for manga. I'm sure both of us, that might affect certain ways we rank things. If maybe we enjoyed it more in the anime, vice versa.
Yep.
Another thing is obviously this is a spoiler warning.
Spoiler warning.
If you are not past Skypea, there will be spoilers for past that.
Which reminds us, if you are not sure what that is all about, go check out the first part of this mini-series where we review all the arcs, starting with Romance Dawn all the way up to Skypea. You should go check that out, because then you can understand more of the bickering and things that will happen in this episode.
That is just factually true. But yeah. The main thing is obviously we don't want to spoil anything. We're going to be discussing obviously arcs as we go. Yeah. So if you see that we're at an arc and you don't want to be spoiled for that arc, that's probably a good time to turn off. Come back when you are caught up. And of course, make your own tier list when you are. We are definitely interested to see what everyone else's opinion is.
Yep.
And or, how much we're wrong.
Oh, is that what it is?
I think that's how the internet works. It's not a discussion. It's how wrong are the other people.
Correct. Always.
Without further ado, though, let's jump right into it. And I think you have your tier list ready, Matt?
Yep.
Your first one? Okay. Perfect.
Everything's all good to go here.
All right. I think it's safe to say, though, for me.
Just put it where it needs to be.
Yeah, I'm going to put it in D tier.
Yep.
Okay.
Nice and easy.
We're starting off easy here.
Yeah. This arc is one of the arcs in the anime that actually has filler. Like, there's only a couple episodes of filler, per se. But with the small percentage that One Piece has for filler, it being such a low rate, this is one of the arcs that has...
Feels harsh, because in the manga, it really is only, like, 1 or 2 chapters. Like, it's very little.
Very small, yeah.
But it is just a transition arc to...
Yep.
Water 7, but I don't know. There's just nothing I really liked about the arc.
No.
I guess my favorite thing is Sanji and Zoro having to work together, where they still don't like it, but they're like
they have
disgruntled.
Yeah.
Do it. But other than that, I guess it just shows how ridiculous One Piece can be. We have a crazy OP power that turns out, if that was on someone else that was a little maybe more intelligent, would be insane.
Yeah.
We also get another weird island.
Yep.
With all the long creatures.
The only key plot points it says, because I have that list up that kind of breaks down the arcs a little bit, is that this is when Akiji and the strengths of like the admirals are introduced.
Oh, do we meet Aokiji for the first time?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, he freezes Luffy and freezes Nico Robin.
Yeah.
But he doesn't actually grab them. Then off on his bike he goes.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess that would probably be the most important thing then.
But still
meeting one of the admirals. That's it.
Yeah. It's a tiny arc too. I think episode-wise, 15. Chapters-wise, 19 chapters. But I think that's because they incorporate with like
both, yeah.
Aokiji getting...
They incorporate Aokiji and the...
going down from Skypiea, that whole...
Oh, yeah. That's also, I think, there's a whole filler arc of them falling.
Yeah, there's
pre-falling.
4 episodes filler in this, of the 15 episodes, 4 of which are filler.
Because in the anime, they have 2 of those octopus balloons.
Yeah.
But only 1, obviously, in the manga. Anyways. All right. Well, that's easy enough. On to, I feel like this is easy to say, but one of a fan favorite.
Yes, definitely.
Especially if you consider the saga of
Water
7
as a
everything
whole.
it encompasses.
Yeah.
But for me, I put Water 7 as A tier.
Yep.
Okay, we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Now, the only reason I'm putting it on A tier is because I do think Enies Lobby is better.
I agree.
All right.
Water 7 wise, not too. I mean,
Water 7, cool island.
Yep.
The whole concept of it is cool. Shipwright, kind of. That's where the best shipwrights are.
Usopp and Robin leave.
Right. We have the Usopp and Luffy fight, which is very dramatic.
Yep.
Heartfelt. Usopp does put up a pretty solid battle,
Yeah.
considering we all know who was gonna win. I think he did. He had some really good preparation, and he tried his best.
He tried.
Also, very sad. Learning that Going Merry is Dunzo.
Yep.
And just seeing how the whole crew reacts to that too. They all kind of are going to Water 7 with the expectation, like, we're going to get the Merry fixed. We're going to go back on our adventure. It's going to be great. And once they learn that, no, the Going Merry cannot, it's a miracle that you made it here.
Yeah.
And even just the way Luffy handles it, you can tell it is a very difficult decision. But Luffy's goal is to be the Pirate King.
Exactly.
So he makes the decision
sacrifices.
That if I want my dream to come true, we have to get another ship.
Yeah.
It's just not possible. And of course, that's when Usopp disagrees.
He's like, no, we can't. He leaves.
Which I feel some people get really annoyed by it, but the ship does have more sentimental value to Usopp.
Yeah.
His village, for lack of a better term, basically his best friend / love interest.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel for Usopp, but at the same time, I was kind of like, yeah.
It's got to happen.
And so with that, Usopp is gone. Robin leaves.
Yep.
We meet CP9.
CP9, that's a big part of this.
We're all undercover.
Yep.
We meet Frankie and the Frankie family. We meet Iceberg, who's actually, fun fact, is inspired by George Clooney.
Interesting.
Yep. That is who he's inspired by. Yeah.
The more you know.
The more you know. Yeah, so we meet all the other Galley Law people. Yeah, what else? Obviously the cityscape is kind of based off of Venice in a way.
Mm-hmm.
The travel, the water throughout the city. And overall, very cool architecture, very cool landscape of the island. But mostly it's just a major setup
for what's about to happen.
Exactly. We have Luffy and crew kind of lose to CP9.
Mm-hmm.
And by lose, I mean pretty much get wrecked. Showing that, because at this point, for the most part, I feel like the Straw Hats have always kind of gotten over the opposing. Luffy did have a couple. He has a couple losses to Crocodile, but
not to this extent.
Yeah, it didn't. I mean, he did have that hook through him, but then he was, he's fine. But I don't know. I just feel like this was the first real major gap in strength where you're like, wow, those guys are something else. And they exhibited abilities that we just haven't seen. So with that being said, Robin's taken, Usopp's gone, and they Luffy and crew just don't accept that. They want Robin back.
Sorry, who's up?
Oh, we also meet Tom.
Yep.
In the flashback.
Yep.
Who duel with gusto. He's an interesting character. Made Gold Roger ship. And with that said, they make their way to go save Robin.
Exactly.
So we get to meet Sniper King for the first time.
Yep.
It's a shame he's not a mainstay. It was a pretty cool character.
Yeah. Pretty neat.
And also obviously the sea train is also introduced at this time. But anyways, we make our way to Enies Lobby, which is basically where all the craziness happens of kind of built up by Water 7.
Now, because on our own list, we didn't have Peak One Piece as an option.
Correct.
So are you thinking of throwing Enies Lobby and Peak One Piece?
I'm
Where
okay
are you sitting with this?
I have it in S tier for my actual list.
Yeah, same.
I'm okay with putting it in Peak One Piece for now.
Okay.
And potentially
lowering it
depending on how many we end up putting.
Because there's a lot that happens in this arc for a lot of the characters. This is where a lot of them we see their first big power-ups.
Yeah, so we have power-ups. We have some more lore that builds a little bit more of the world government, builds more with some backstories for major characters.
Mm-hmm.
On top of that, we also get just an insight to, like, this goes with the world, the building of the world, but just the true insight into how corrupt the Marine/world government really is. And the Straw Hats also wage war on the world government.
What? No.
So that's something.
That's a little big,
That's something.
And we see Luffy's gear 2 and 3.
Yep. So like you said, these are the big power ups we get. The monster point for the first time.
Sanji's Jambe.
Diablo Jam.
Yep. 9 sword style.
Yep. We've got
Zoro loses the Yabashiri.
Oh yes, it gets that's a little bit a skipped over point, but his sword gets rusted. Yeah, that's right.
Kind of important, but is.
No, it's definitely important, and it's kind of not a foreshadow, but more of a question of what's he gonna get next. Obviously, Zoro without 3 swords is not Zoro.
Not Zoro.
But
Nami's perfect climb attack as well.
Yep. Always improvements to the climb attack. Always improvements. Always getting better. Now, in this one, we follow the typical Straw Hat writing style for Oda, where eventually we start all together, kind of. Like, they're already split up on the train, because some people are on the train, some aren't.
Yeah.
We get there, everyone's kind of starts getting split up, and they all end up doing their own fights. And I feel like the first thing we should probably discuss is just, I guess probably Luffy versus Bluno, I believe his name is. They have the Door fruit. Mm-hmm. And that's when he uses Gear 2 for the first time.
Yep.
That's the stance where he bends his knees, fist down to the ground, and he starts basically blood doping.
Yeah.
Essentially how it's explained is since he's made of rubber, he can therefore pump more of his blood to all of his vital organs and muscles, etc., increasing the speed of that, getting more oxygen to all of his body parts, ergo giving him more speed, which was kind of his way of adapting to the speed of CP9. That was Luffy's adaptation. Now, if you're completely caught up in One Piece, this makes even more sense based on what we know about his devil fruit now. I'm not going to go too spoilery, since some people might want to stick around until the arc they're on.
Yeah.
But this is the first interesting creativity that Luffy... he displays creativity always with his fruit, but this one's the first where you're kind of at that, okay, I guess. Some of it, I guess, that makes kind of ish sense. Sure. But if you're caught up, it makes tons of sense now.
Yes.
Gear 3 made less sense to me. The whole biting his arm and blowing up his bones and his muscles and stuff. Because, if you ever get hit by a balloon, does that hurt?
Yeah.
That's the one thing. And it still has impact. So I don't know so much about Gear 3, but something they got rid of, that Oda got rid of originally with Gear 3 was Luffy shrinking.
Oy.
That used to be a downside to using Gear 3, which I always thought was kind of funny.
Interesting.
Seeing the mini Luffy.
Yeah.
Just think about it, how he uses Gear 3 after, and that doesn't happen anymore.
No, it's true, yeah.
So that was interesting.
Another big thing for this arc as well is this is the first reveal of like people like if they eat a second devil fruit that they'll just die essentially.
Yeah, that is revealed. There's some devil fruit lore because we have two people that end up getting devil fruits from CP9,
which is the first time we see people actively eat
it and
not in a
not
flashback.
good, and they're not good.
Exactly.
Not tasty.
Nope.
Yeah, they eat the giraffe and the soap, I believe, something like that.
Giraffe for sure. I think it might be soap.
And Khalifa's might be soap. Khalifa, I don't remember her name. Something like that. Going off memory here. Matt's the one who has a list in front of him. I'm just spouting off as much as I think I know, potentially know, might know. Lies. They could be lies. I could just be saying names.
Awa no mi, which does not tell me what it is.
Ah.
Straw Hats, Frankie. A lot of Robin backstory, obviously.
Yeah. That's pretty much who the main focus is on, is Robin and her, I guess, basically giving up, mostly due to the fact that she wants to keep the Straw Hats safe.
Yep.
She's always felt like anyone she gets close to is in danger and has either died or something bad's happened to. Very sad. Very sad life she's lived if you consider how long she's been wanted by the government from a very young age. And yeah, she definitely bonds with the Straw Hats and doesn't want anything bad to happen. So her giving up is kind of her way of thinking she's saving them.
Yep.
And at this point, if you know anything about Luffy, he just doesn't really accept that crap.
It's true.
I mean, we look back at Nami, who's like, no, leave. I don't need you. I don't need your help, blah, blah, blah. And then she does. So
yep.
Luffy knows what's best for you before you know what's best for you.
True. Also, the Awa no mi fruit is basically making the user a soap human, but it's called the bubble fruit.
Bubble. Okay.
Yeah.
So.
And it's a paramecia, not to be confused with Logia, because the user cannot turn themselves into soap and bubbles.
Well, there you go.
There's your fun devil fruit fact for this arc.
Yeah, I really disliked that fight personally.
Yeah.
Whenever there's a fight with, the fight with Nami was good. Mm-hmm. It's whenever Sanji's fighting someone that's a woman. I'm not a big fan of the whole, I can't fight them, they're a woman. And this happens with Bon Clay.
Yep.
We didn't really mention it during talking about Alabasta, but I also was not a big fan of Bon Clay switching to Nami and then Sanji just not being able to fight anymore. Because he's a very intelligent person. And I get that it's the humor and he's the love-struck, like, style archetype. But
still, yeah.
Nah, I don't know. I just feel like his intelligence is higher than that. But with that said, we also see probably one of the greatest fights, or what a lot of people would consider one of the greatest fights in the manga / anime, and one of the greatest villains, or fan favorite villains, which is Rob Lucci and Luffy. He has the leopard devil fruit.
Yep.
And yeah, it was a pretty solid fight, not gonna lie. I enjoyed it. I think Rob Lucci's a pretty cool character. His backstory is also pretty messed up, by the way.
Yes.
And yeah, I got nothing bad to really say about the arc. It follows, I guess if you want to say one negative, it just repeats the same fighting stylistic choice of breaking up the Straw Hats, but you kind of have to.
We've talked about this too, where like it's good, you have to break them apart.
Just easier. It also makes, what are you going to have, all Straw Hats versus Rob Lucci?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
And it's a crew. You expect everyone to kind of take on someone their own way, their own strength level. That's kind of how it ends up being, right? Luffy takes on the big bad.
Yep.
Then Zoro takes on the second big bad.
Exactly.
Then Sanji, and down the pecking order we go.
Exactly.
We get to see Frankie fight, who's definitely got an interesting style to him, being half cyborg, front half only.
Yep.
because he can only surgically,
of course,
do stuff to himself via that way.
Yeah.
We also get Frankie's backstory, which I believe is told during Water 7.
It's mostly during Water 7, because then Frankie officially helps out in Honest Lobby.
Yep. But yeah, Robin's backstory, her island gets Buster called, which is, appropriately name dropped a Buster call, because then his lobby also ends up getting Buster called.
Yep.
And yeah, it's a very dramatic, sad backstory about her whole island and her family dying, everyone she's ever known and loved. We learn about how she knows Okiji. What ends up happening there with D-Soul. And yeah, it's pretty rough. Pretty rough to read / watch. This very young girl just ended up becoming one of the most wanted people in the world.
But
and told lies told about her.
Yeah.
Because what the reason why is just because O'Hara just were smart, and they were too smart for their own good. Too interested in the Void Sentry, too interested in knowledge that the world government
had to shut that down.
Do not want people to have. So Dunzo is that island. And that just goes into what we were discussing, where you just gotta learn how corrupt the world really is, where you're not allowed to know.
Yep. It's the thought police.
Yeah. You're not allowed to think. You're not allowed to know. You're not allowed to search for things unless the world government says so.
Exactly.
And Robin is now one of the last people who's able to read poneglyphs, which we know already. But now we know the importance of that.
Yep.
That's why she's wanted, is because she can do that.
She has the ability to do that.
Means she has the potential to reveal the secrets of the Void Sentry.
Which is no bueno.
Which the world government they're not a fan of that.
Exactly.
And yeah, so another name drop is Void Sentry.
Yep.
A lot of big elements introduced here. And obviously the big fights were great. And
peak One Piece.
And the best part is they're leaving Enies Lobby, who's being Buster called, and what better than the ship that we thought was gone to save their ass.
Which is so weird.
The Going Mary's there.
For the big finale.
That I believe, if I remember correctly, Iceberg ended up fixing after the wave came in.
Yeah.
He saw it shipwrecked on the side of Water 7. And I think he heard the Calabraltamon or whatever it's called speak to him, the ship speak to him.
Yep.
He fixed that ship. Ship's like, I need to sail one more time. I need to help them one more time. Out the ship goes after he fixes it-ish. And it saves the Straw Hats, leading us into post-Enies Lobby.
Post-Enies Lobby.
Post-Enies Lobby.
Not as long as Enies Lobby.
No, it's more of just a wrap-up of the two arcs as a whole.
Which I think is still S tier.
Oh, you have post Enies Lobby as an S tier.
I have it in A, but I'm thinking based on because we've thrown Enies Lobby in peak One Piece, and this is still solid wrap-up story. It's the big finale, the epilogue to Enies Lobby. I think throwing it in S tier would be good, but I also putting it in A.
I have it dropped on my list in B tier.
B tier, okay.
I feel like the main reason is just it's kind of falling in that transition arc-esque idea. It is wrapping up a lot of the drama, a lot of the craziness we've already seen. I think the most important part of post-Enies Lobby is we meet Garp. Well, the crew meets Garp. If you're reading cover stories, you've met Garp.
Yeah, long time ago.
So you meet Garp. We get to see Kobe and Helmeppo for the first time and how they are now. And we get the name drop of who Luffy's dad is. And the Usopp apology. I feel like those are and Frankie joins. I feel like that's covered. Not saying that those are big elements.
But there's more big elements too based on this list here. Apparently this is when the Four Emperors and the New World is introduced.
Because that's what Garp introduces to them.
Monkey D. Dragon is properly introduced.
Yes, that's Luffy's dad.
I know. And then the Shank and Whitebeard battle and the Ace and Blackbeard battle. So I just feel like there's definitely...
I guess we can move it into A tier just based on the knowledge that's dropped in such a short part. We'll move it over. But yeah, a lot of big information. We have the surprise from Garp showing up, breaking into the place that the Straw Hats are. Straw Hats thinking they're doomed because they're all pretty weak, still recovering. And then learning that one of the vice admirals of the Marines, the hero of the Navy, is Luffy's grandpa, Monkey D. Garp. And as you would expect, they're all very shocked and kind of like, Luffy, why didn't you ever mention anything? And obviously, Garp and Luffy have a interesting relationship. Although very similar in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And they also do not see eye to eye on a lot of things.
Yep.
But it is just funny seeing all of these Marines show up to the very wanted Straw Hats at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Not giving a crap about actually getting the Straw Hats.
Yep.
And obviously, Garp's there. He name drops Dragon, like Matt said, which Luffy has no idea who his dad is. And then he pops off talking about, oh, Luffy, I heard you met your dad. And he's like,
what are you talking about?
I have a dad.
Yeah.
And so Dragon's then dropped, in which case, once again, all the Straw Hats are kind of like blown away.
Why haven't you told us?
All of them know who Dragon is, and Luffy has no idea.
Yeah.
And Dragon is name dropped as the most wanted man in the world.
Yep.
Leader of the Revolutionary Army. So the Monkey family is... They have chess pieces on all sides.
Yes.
You know, we got someone who, technically speaking, is on the side of the world government.
Yep.
We have one who's a pirate.
And one on the complete opposite end.
And one who's a revolutionary.
Yep. A little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. That family is crazy.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, Garp then goes into talking about the 4 powers, which is our first time. The names aren't really dropped for all of them, if I remember correctly, but we see an image of what they kind of look like, a shadow. So yeah. I remember the first image of Kaido really doesn't look like what Kaido ends up looking like. Big Mom's looks pretty accurate.
Yeah.
And obviously we have Whitebeard and we have Shanks. So
now we don't know their names at this point, right? Not for all 4 of them.
I think just Whitebeard and Shanks.
Yeah. And
we see like the shadowy figures of the other 2 because we haven't.
Yeah, I know Kaido gets mentioned in the next arc, and
we haven't been introduced to them.
Yeah,
and that's the first time we learn about. I guess the importance of that is we learn how strong Shanks is as a pirate.
Yep.
How important he really is. Obviously, at this point, we've already seen Whitebeard and Shanks clash. Right? We see Shanks go aboard Whitebeard's ship, telling him to tell Ace to stop hunting Blackbeard.
Yeah,
which Whitebeard did not like. He did not. He did not care for being told what to do.
Yep.
Especially by Shanks. But
dun, 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 dun.
So we've seen these 2 guys. We see that Whitebeard is a massive dude. Massive.
Very large man.
And I guess, like you said, we end up seeing the battle of Ace and Blackbeard occur. And that one's actually just left in the air at the end because they both end up using some massive... I can't remember their abilities respectively, but they both use massive
attacks,
and it's just kind of left in the air of like, okay, I guess that happened. Maybe we'll come back to that. Exactly. And then after Garp, we meet Kobe and Helmeppo.
Yep.
See how they're doing. They're both definitely more. Well, Helmeppo definitely is a better person. Not hard. He definitely had to just be even just remotely nicer.
Be nice, yeah.
And he was a better person. And we see Kobe just not be a wuss.
Yep.
Which is also nice to see. They definitely have grown into good Marines. Definitely have a good figure to follow when it comes to the Marines, at least, which is nice. And we do end up seeing them later in the story, but this is just... It's nice to see the progress because, in a way, Kobe is a mirroring of what's going on with Luffy.
Yeah.
We may not always see what's going on with him, but at the same time, he began his journey into becoming a Marine at the same time Luffy became a pirate, realistically. So
pretty much, yeah.
It is kind of a mirroring of them of where's Luffy at, where is Kobe at.
Yeah.
And with the end, we get Frankie joining the crew in a very creative way. Do you remember how he joins?
Not exactly, no.
There's a Des Fleur.
Oh, yeah.
Onto a sensitive body part of any male genitalia.
Yep.
and also he doesn't have his Speedo on.
Yes, I do remember this now.
Well, okay. And yeah, he ends up joining the crew. He also ends up, I don't know, making a ship for them.
Yeah.
After stealing all of their money. And he joins us the shipwright.
Exactly. Thus, the Thousand Sunny.
The Thousand Sunny was born. And then they leave. Well, just before they leave, one of my favorite moments. Now, I don't know how high on my list it would go. Maybe we do a favorite moments list another time.
Yeah.
But this is something for me that you got to put respect on Zoro's name. Now, he may just come off as a little dumb sometimes when it comes to figuring out where he needs to go.
Yep.
But this moment for me shows how good he really is as the second in charge, as that right hand to Luffy, as the vice captain. Luffy's a jokester. None of his crew really takes him too seriously. I think the big thing that the crew has in terms of respect for Luffy is when the chips are down, when he's needed, they know they can count on Luffy.
Yeah.
That's one of the big things. And obviously they hear, because I think Sanji walks by the beach and he hears like Usopp practicing accepting being part of the crew again. And he tells everyone, and then Chopper and Luffy are all super excited, and everyone's excited to be like, oh yeah, let's go welcome him back to the crew. And Zoro stops everyone and is like, no. He chose to leave. He chose to put down the gauntlet and fight our captain.
Yep.
He's like, we're not playing games here. We're not playing pirate. You can't just leave and join. That's not what he's like. And he even says, I think he ends up grabbing Luffy's face and is like, now our captain is an idiot, but he's still our captain. And he's like, and I think he says something along the lines of he would lose all respect for Luffy if he just lets him part of the crew, and Zoro will be the next to defect.
Yeah.
And while everyone is grumpy and mad at Zoro for saying this, it was definitely
the reality, though.
It was something that needed to be said.
Yeah.
And once he says that, Luffy understands and accepts that.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the strong suits that Luffy has of when someone on his crew is dead serious about something like that, he puts aside his own wants and desires to be like, okay, I understand.
Yeah, you're right.
So they end up leaving. And Usopp hasn't come and apologized yet.
Nope.
Because Usopp is under the impression that for some reason they're just going to
welcome him back. Like, it's
just
nothing.
be like, oh, come back. But no, he definitely doesn't need to apologize. He was in the wrong. And yeah, everyone's very sad because it doesn't look very good. And as last minute as it can be, he apologizes and Luffy extends his arm in both friendship and they come back. And then he's back on the crew. Usopp's back. Maybe, they probably should have upgraded and grabbed Sniper King, but
it's fine.
That's their own decision. And thus,
moving on to
Thus, we move on to Thriller Bark. Which
How
is
bad did you put it?
Halloween themed. People love Halloween themed arcs and stories. I have.
Is it D for you?
I have Thriller Bark in C.
Okay. All right. I'll take it then.
Sole purpose being something I'm sure we'll talk about at the end. That's pretty much the one thing that brings it up for me. For me, Thriller Bark there are some funny moments.
Yep.
Meeting Brook is interesting. Just another really wacky devil fruit. On top of that, we also just the explanation of why because remember, it's the whole point of his devil fruit is you get a second chance at life.
Yep.
But his soul could not find his body. That is why he's a skeleton. If it was someone else who's apparently the soul could find your body,
yep,
they would be just a normal person again.
Exactly. But nope. Brook is in fact a skeleton man.
Yeah, he's a skeleton. And he has an afro.
Heck yeah.
Another really messed up backstory, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, this goes without saying, but the entire Straw Hat crew has pretty messed up.
Is this when we get the payoff of like LeFou and everything like that? No, that's later on.
Technically, we get the payoff because we get the first relation to him.
Mm-hmm.
Because the crew that the whale was waiting for was
Brook's crew. Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
And that's his goal.
Yeah.
Is to meet him again. So I guess, yeah, you could argue that this is the payoff. But at the same time, we just extended it now because now it's the goal.
It's his goal,
Brook.
yeah.
And the big, massive payoff is early on in the East Blue Saga, Luffy mentioning that they need a musician.
Exactly.
And Brook ends up being that musician, which is pretty awesome. And he is pretty great for that.
One of my favorites.
We also get a really bizarre health mechanics in this arc, which Luffy loses a tooth and all he has to do is drink milk and he gets a tooth back.
Yeah.
Or is that Enies Lobby? I can't remember.
It's one of these.
One of those recent arcs in this area that you just happens and you just kind of go, okay, sure, I guess. And with that being said, we go on to the actual island, which is just actually a ship. It's a ship of one of the 7 warlords. That warlord being Gecko Moria.
What are your thoughts on Moria?
I just did not enjoy him as a villain. I thought his power was interesting, pretty cool. Brook joins in, not the crew, but joins them because his shadow has been taken and he wants to get his shadow back. So he tags along with the Straw Hats, the new Straw Hats. First island with Frankie. And yeah, it's a Halloween themed island. Lots of skeleton zombie-esque things going on. We got people with different people's shadows causing a whole types of weird shenanigans. We meet that weird doctor guy who's a horrible human being.
Yep.
Turns out, shocker. Just not a good person at all, which he's a doctor in quotations, and obviously our actual doctor who gives a crap about people is just appalled. Just absolutely appalled. We've got the weird mink. He's not a mink. No, we get the weird guy with the invisible devil fruit, which is like Sanji's like jealous. He's so jealous that this guy has this devil fruit.
Yep.
Where this guy creeps in on Nami, and it's a very uncomfortable scene. Very uncomfortable. I should note that she was in the shower. Like it's very
I was gonna say you should probably mention that.
It's a very uncomfortable scene. And then other than that, we end up working towards. I'm just gonna skip over a lot of it and just go into the big things, which is obviously Luffy ends up fighting Gecko Moria.
Yep.
To get all his shadows back. And Zoro has a fight with the zombified, resurrected, legendary samurai.
Yep.
Ryuma, I believe. Is that his name? Is it in your notes?
It has the name of the blade. Black Blade. Ryuma.
Okay. So I was right. And that's also a massive foreshadowing to Wano.
Huge foreshadowing.
Because Gecko Moria went to, or Gecko Moria and the doctor went to Wano, dug up
23 years ago.
Dug up Ryuma's grave to steal him and the sword.
Yep.
This is also the treasure of Wano, this sword. And Ryuma is the most legendary samurai from the island of Wano. So, major dream drop of Wano. Obviously, this ends up being Zoro's 3rd sword, which, what was the name, Matt? Go ahead. Drop the name of the sword.
The sword? Shisui?
Black Blade. Looks
one of the 21 great swords.
Looks awesome.
Yep.
Definitely one of the coolest looking swords. And I believe Ryuma also had Brook's Shadow, so he helps that.
The sword stands for Autumn Water. Fun fact.
And it was a pretty sick fight.
Yep.
Zoro gets a 3rd sword. Luffy beats Gecko Moria. The Onion Man.
Yep. Big thing in this arc too is Kuma.
Well, I was getting there.
I don't know.
I'm just saying those are the big things that the fight happens.
Yep.
Luffy is exhausted because Nightmare Luffy comes out.
Nightmare Luffy.
Another big drop is the giant, the old giant race, whatever they're called.
It's not in the general notes here.
I can't remember the name of the race is, but it's like a Oni-esque level beastly giant, old ancient giant. I don't remember what it's called, but then all the Straw Hats are I think it's safe to say dead exhausted. Luffy beaten to crap, not feeling very hot, unconscious in terms of just cannot fight, probably can't move his body at all.
Yep.
And then Bartholomew Kuma enter, new warlord. New warlord appears.
A 5th one unlocked.
And Kuma, he's a strange one, holding a Bible. Bare-eared, massive lad. Weird pawpaw fruit. think that basically covers him.
Yeah.
And it's safe to say the Straw Hats cannot fight this guy at this moment. And enter him going after Luffy because he's a warlord, so he's just doing what he's told.
Yep.
And Zoro and Sanji are like, no way, Jose, you ain't grabbing our captain. And they're willing to basically die for their captain, which respect to both Sanji and Zoro for this massive cojones. Shows that both of them are willing to give up what they desire for their captain. Mm-hmm. Zoro, being the vice captain, also disliking Sanji, gives him the old knockout.
Yep.
And basically takes on Kuma by himself in his own way. And what ends up happening is Zoro puts his life on the line saying, do not take my captain's life. I'm going to be the greatest swordsman. Basically saying, like, you can take me. I'm the equivalent of what will be the greatest swordsman. Putting all of his ambitions aside for his captain. And this is just a goosebumps scene in both the manga and the anime where you just... Because at this point, Zoro, believe even early in the story, Zoro's like, I will become, and I'm not going to let your dreams stop me from becoming the greatest swordsman. But he's basically always let Luffy know that, yeah, I'm going to be with you, and I'm going to be on your crew, and I will help. But if that moment arises where I need to be, I'm going to take it.
Yep.
And this is where we learn that he puts that aside to be... Basically, Luffy's goal is everyone's goal.
Yep.
And everyone else's goal is a tier below. And he ends up taking on all of Luffy's pain,
which is very insane.
Yeah, Kuma makes uses Paw Fruit to extract all of Luffy's pain and exhaustion from his previous fight, and basically says, "Hey, if you can live this, then like I'm leaving.
Yep. If
you die, then I'll let them know that I killed the pirate hunter Zoro, and that's a W. And I couldn't capture Luffy. If you live, then." Like, basically respect.
It's true.
And, yeah, he ends up taking on all of Luffy's pain, all of Luffy's exhaustion. The Straw Hats finally end up waking up from the battle.
Yep.
And there's Zoro standing off in the distance, pool of blood. Everyone's like, what the heck happened? What's going on? And Zoro with the most cold response ever. Nothing happened. Because he doesn't want them to know what happened.
Exactly.
He doesn't care. He doesn't need any... He did it because that's just his duty to his captain.
Exactly.
And he doesn't need to be...
And it takes like full 3 years.
Yeah. And he doesn't need to be recognized for it.
Exactly.
He doesn't want anyone to be happy he did it. He just did it because that's his job. And Brook has seen it, saw this happen, saw it go down, and he never says anything either, which I respect as well. But... He goes up to Zoro later and he's like, why didn't you tell anyone? And it's just, it is probably one of the, if not the greatest moments in One Piece.
I would agree with that.
Just,
it's goosebumps just thinking about it. Like, it is insane.
The sheer level of how much he went through and how little he expected from it.
Yep.
He didn't know if he was going to live. And the fact that he did live and he still is like,
it is what it is.
Yeah, basically, it's just... remarkable.
Yep.
But as for like the villains, I didn't care for them.
Moria was meh. Arguably the least.
He's also such a wuss.
Yeah.
He's basically chilling in, I can't remember what it's called, but he's basically chilling in the Bermuda Triangle, essentially.
Florian Triangle.
Yeah. And he's just chilling there because he's too scared to do anything else. I think he tried to fight Kaido and got his arse whooped, and basically he's just tail between his legs, and that's all he does.
Exactly.
So I just did not care for him at all. And I'm not a big Halloween person. I don't.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't like watch any horror films or anything.
Yeah, it's not your cup of tea.
So it wasn't a good start.
Yeah.
For me. With that said, Brook then joins the crew.
Yep.
Another bonus for the arc. And we don't end up getting a crew member for a very long time.
Yes. There is some other not big things, but important things that happen in this arc as well. Like things that are mentioned, which kind of talked about. Wano and Kaido are mentioned. Big Mom is indirectly mentioned because Charlotte Lola shows up and gives the paper to Nami.
One of the Charlotte family is there.
Yeah.
And she gives the Viva card.
The Viva
card. Her mom. And she says her mom's a very powerful pirate.
Yeah, it's just, this is my mom. And you're like, this is my mom.
The Viva card is used when they fight Big Mom. So.
And this is also revealed that the Ace the paper as well. Because Ace gave one to Luffy, remember? And then this is when it's explained what it is.
The importance of a Viva card and what it does, yeah.
Otherwise, Kuma's... Oh, Vegapunk Pieck is introduced as well.
Name dropped, yeah.
Name drop, which, I mean, again.
I think he already name dropped?
Just says that in this key point, it says that he's introduced. Same with the Pacifistas is introduced during, which makes sense. He made the
Pacifistas. Well, I was just thinking because we've seen devil fruits, inanimate objects. Eat quotations devil fruits.
At this point, yeah.
And I can't remember if they said that was what Vegapunk, or maybe this is when it said that.
I think
Vegapunk
it might be explained here. Yeah,
is the one who found that out.
Yeah. So where are we putting this? C, I guess.
Yeah. Moments are S tier, but overall,
yeah, it drops it down based on the villain. Kind of arguably, maybe this is a bold statement, but on no, it's not bold. On the weaker side of the 7 warlords.
Lot of good. Yeah, he's probably the worst.
Is he okay? So I didn't want to just say that, but he seems like
cool
the
devil
worst.
fruit, but can't be used in the sunlight.
Yeah,
that's one thing.
But when you're comparing it to like Kuma and Flamingo, and
if you really want to just highlight the key moments, it could be higher, with one of the best moments in all of One Piece, with the foreshadowing of a massive arc of island like
Rook
Wano,
joining, Big Mom being
another
mentioned.
member joining. Like, these are important things. So maybe we could move it up to B.
But is it on peak with like those ones?
I would say maybe.
Almost.
I guess it is in terms of moments. I guess it does have more important.
I would move it up to B for now.
I feel like whenever a member is joining, like, you almost have to say it's probably a B.
And this is a big, like you said, like that Zoro moment alone is a solid part.
We meet a lot of new characters.
A lot of foreshadowing too. Obviously, we don't want to just make that the main reason.
I feel like the foreshadowing makes up, and the moments make up for maybe they're the importance to take from the arc. You don't really need to care about Gecko Moria and the doctor guy.
No, Moria doesn't really come back.
He does.
He does, but like
he does
in the grand scheme of everything. I don't know.
We'll see. Okay, now on to Sabayori.
We're doing this whole saga.
Well, yeah, we're going all the way to time skip.
Yeah, I know.
All right, so this is gonna look like it's like a little bit on the longer side. We might crack an hour here, but let's try and get through some of these a little quicker then. Let's do the Sabayori Archipelago.
Yes.
So
where did you put it? I put it.
Sabayori, I ended up putting at S tier.
S tier, okay.
You?
I put it in A.
You put it in A, so we'll put it up here just so we can see it. So for me, reasons being S tier is we meet the worst generation. That's pretty epic. We meet Law for the first time, one of my personal favorites.
Celestial Dragons introduced.
Just a lot of cool things. Yeah, the Celestial Dragons are introduced. We see some characters like I can't remember his name. The octopus that was originally from Arlong.
Oh,
that was from Arlong Park. Hibachi.
Hibachi, something like that. Yeah.
He ends up being reintroduced. Obviously, Nami is not a fan. Yeah. But I believe Nami ends up forgiving him in this arc. We meet Silvers Rayleigh, the co-captain of
the one and only.
The one and only. Yeah. Pretty much the Gold Roger Pirates. So the king, the right hand to the king of the pirates, who also ends up name dropping a lot of things. And mentions that Shanks was part of their crew. Mentions that he's had a conversation with Shanks about Luffy. That has Luffy gushing. He also knows, obviously, what the One Piece is. And Usopp is all like, oh, what is it? And so Luffy is pissed when Usopp asks because, of course, Luffy wants to figure that out on his own.
Yep.
And I think Silvers Rayleigh respects that. Respects the effort-licking heck out of that.
One of my favorite characters.
But
overarching.
Basically, the main concept of this whole arc is this is where you go to get your boat bubbled so you can go to Fishman Island.
Yep.
That's the big important part that the Straw Hats are trying to do. In the meantime of this happening, Luffy ends up punching a Celestial Dragon, which is a big no-no because we learned that these guys are the scum of the earth. They are the most important but also least important people ever, basically, because in terms of the world government, they're the most important. They're founding family members. They're family ancestors of members that founded the world government. They all live on Marijua. They all think they're better than absolutely every single person in the world. And anything they say basically goes. And yeah, Luffy punches one, Charlos, I believe.
Epic.
And it's animated beautifully. And it's also just epic. And apparently this is just an instant crazy threat. Admiral is instantly called in. We meet Kizaru for the first time. a whole bunch of Marines are showing up, and basically we just see an all-out epic battle of all of the worst generation pirates trying to leave, showing off some of their powers. We get to see Law use his Oppie Oppie no Mi. We see Kid using his whatever, Magna Fruit, whatever it is. Basically, we just see a bunch of them getting to flex their muscles very early on.
Yep.
And it's also where the Straw Hats end up getting zippity zapped because they're absolutely whacked. They're destroyed. It's basically where we learn the Straw Hats are not ready for the new world is essentially what happens here.
Weak sauce.
Yeah, weak sauce. The pacifistas destroy them. The Admiral is way stronger than any of the worst generation pirates. And Bartholomew Kuma comes in and gives them the old paw fruit into Boink Land. All of them are separated. All of them are in different places.
Bloop, bloop, bloop. Yep.
And the Straw Hats are scattered.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's a pretty intense arc.
Yeah. Just a little bit. Just a lot happening. For it being so small.
Yeah, it's not a very long arc. I'm okay with putting it in A tier.
Yeah.
I think looking back, it is relatively short. We do get introduced to a lot of people, but
it's the setup though.
Yeah, it's more of the importance of the Sabaody is more so obviously we learn about the Celestial Dragons, which is a massive importance in terms of the world landscape of the One Piece world. But the main thing is the Straw Hats aren't ready.
Yeah. So I think dropping that to an A makes sense, especially with the other ones we have on A. Those are all good lore build, but they're kind of just like...
We meet a lot of characters, a lot of cool characters.
Yeah. It's planting the seeds for what's going to happen.
Bigger things are to come.
Yeah. Moving on to another...
Amazon Lily.
Smaller
First
arc.
real name drop of Haki.
Yes.
This is where Haki has begun to become a true power system within the One Piece world.
Yes.
Our boy Luffy apparently has such thing as Haki. I believe at this point we've already
saw it at Sabaody.
Yeah, we saw him use it before. Yelling, he used it on the weird animal thing of the guy that looks like Sanji.
Yeah.
Sanji's wanted poster. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, and we've seen types of Haki potentially used before.
Yeah, indirectly.
But this is a name drop.
Yeah.
It's now been named. We meet Boa Hancock for the first time. Another warlord, very powerful.
Now at this point, this is the 6th one we've seen. Because at this point,
giant chip on her shoulder. No. Also, they hate men.
Yeah.
The Amazons.
She loves Luffy.
Amazons hate the men. Boa Hancock originally hates Luffy, and then all of a sudden, Luffy is unaffected by her power because Luffy just does not notice women at all.
Yep.
And yeah, so that relationship, one-sided relationship, is born. Amazon Lily's all right.
Yeah, it's all right. I'd C.
I have Amazon Lily at B.
B? Okay.
Mostly just because I do think it's better than Orange Town. Like, I do think it's better than what we have there. It's probably on level with, like, Romance Dawn, the Baratier, in terms of...
Seems like, for me, it's like a B-, because to me, it's definitely better than, like, Surf Village, Orange Town and stuff, but, like, it's not as good as Barati, Skypiea.
Was I missing anything? What other big things happened? We learn about kind of, like, what happened to the Hancock sisters in terms of they were enslaved.
We learned that about Ace's execution coming.
Yeah, it's probably a big importance is the Viva card's on fire and need to save Ace, and obviously the Amazonians, they end up helping Luffy get to where he needs to go.
Exactly. I'm just gonna read through. Nothing really. Boa Hancock's past,
which is sad. Yeah, the slavery, but that just shows how bad people. Just more knowledge of how bad the Celestial Dragon / whole upper echelon of the world government really is.
We see where everyone got sent briefly.
Yeah, and it covers kind of what everyone's kind of going.
Yeah, which is, I don't know.
I feel like that's probably pretty important, seeing where all the Straw Hats are. Basically, they all get to go through their own training arcs.
Brook is sent to the island where he's mistaken for Saint.
Yeah.
I forgot about that part.
With the double elbow island.
Yeah. The Namakura. Otherwise, I mean, Fisher Tiger is briefly mentioned,
which is big.
Which is big for later on.
Big for later on.
Other than that,
based on our current way we've been ranking, I guess just based on some of the foreshadowing and importance of that, and also the introduction of a new power system.
Yeah.
Name drop. I feel like B is appropriate.
Yeah.
feel like C ends up being more of the, it's okay, but nothing really coming from it. And then D is more of just like the,
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on then. Impel Down.
Oh, boy. This one's a fun little, this arc, in my opinion, is just fun for me.
I want to put an S.
Okay.
Honestly, if you were to compare this to Dungeons & Dragons, it's just a massive dungeon crawl.
Large dungeon crawl, a lot of Easter eggs, and it's just fun because you're like, I wonder where, like, you don't think about it. And you're like, oh, yeah, I remember when Luffy fought this person or visited this person.
It's just nonstop fighting.
Yep.
Basically, all going all the way down the different levels of Impel Down, while also getting introduced to both old and new people.
Yep.
And you also get some epic moments within that. We see Bon Clay again, who, once again, is a fan favorite, I think, in terms of his relationship with the Straw Hat, and he just strengthens it here, where he is willing to sacrifice so much to save Luffy, which is awesome. We see Buggy the Clown again, who also is very important, actually, in the escape of this prison.
Yep.
We meet
Ivankov. And arguably my favorite character, Jinbei.
That is true. We do eventually get to Jinbei. Because the whole point of going to this prison is that Luffy at this moment believes Ace is at the bottom of Impel Down, which is also where Jinbei is, which is also where, I can't remember his name, but the used to be Marine guy is also down there, and who ends up joining Blackbeard's crew.
Yep.
Basically, it's just a fun arc. Lots of fighting. If you're a big fan of fighting and shonen, then obviously you're going to really like this one. Filled with happy moments, sad moments, epic moments, adrenaline-filled moments. Literally, I mean, literally Ivankov with adrenaline stacking Luffy, basically, so he can continue on. We meet Magellan, who's a very interesting individual with a weird quirk of having to go to the bathroom a lot. And yeah, we meet Jinbei, who we learn about his relationship with Ace, his relationship with Whitebeard. Obviously a very loving character. You learn on later on, basically. Yep. We see Crocodile in here as well,
which is interesting.
And Crocodile doesn't want to kill Straw Hat. Well, I mean, he probably said it, but he doesn't.
Yeah. There's a weird connection between him and Ivankov, which has just never been revealed.
Yeah, in the live action, there's a hint at it.
Yeah, which has been a big fan theory for a while, but so on and so forth.
They definitely have some sort of prior relationship. What that is, we do now know.
Yep.
And then there's a fight with Blackbeard. Turns out, wow, Blackbeard's a bad person, and he tricked the world government, because at this point, he's a warlord. And turns out that the whole reason he wanted to be a warlord was just so he could have access to all of the prisoners in Impel Down and try and get them on his crew, all the strong ones.
Yep.
Wow. How could this go so wrong? So yeah, he ends up having a fight with, I think he fights Magellan, but he also has maybe a little bit of a spat with Luffy, but like he's just like, he's basically, he goes full Hisoka on Luffy, I think, where he's just like, not yet.
Yep.
Not yet.
Yeah, no, not yet.
Not yet. I can wait. I'll wait longer. And then Luffy ends up getting out of there because Ace isn't there, and he's got to head over to Marineford. That's where where his brother is about to be executed, and he does not want that to happen.
Correct.
So for me, it's an S tier. It's not quite peak. It's just, if we were just talking straight fighting peak, then sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Lots of cool characters we meet and get reunited with to see again. A lot of people love Crocodile. It's cool to see him again. He obviously ends up escaping with all of them. And Luffy, at this point, I don't think anyone, if maybe one person's escaped Impel Down or something at this point. And
the numbers is extreme.
And then Luffy just like jailbreaks, and Blackbeard combined to jailbreak like pretty much all of Impel Down. So.
Exactly. Other big thing too for this arc, which is important for the first mention of this lore, is Crocodile revealed that Zoan users can have a class known as Awakened.
Awakened is dropped for the first time. Yeah.
Which, I mean, that will be explained later on in different arcs.
As we meet the one guards that are Zone Awakened types. Anything else we're missing? Major points?
Not really. That's basically it. I mean, literally, I went down more of a rabbit hole, but it just said, key points that Ivankov and Jinbei are introduced, and Luffy fights prior and helps escapement. But I'm like, All
right, we'll jump on to Marineford. I'm going to put this into peak One Piece.
Yeah, you just put it right up there.
Wow, it's convenient that the next peak One Piece, I can do this.
You can do this.
This trackpad is awful.
Oh, there we go.
So it's worth noting right now, we do not have this in actual order on the tier list. Because in my opinion, Marine Fighter is better than Ennis Lobby, but we're just kind of putting this in order. Maybe if when we wrap it up next episode, we might shift it into the full order. We'll see. But I think it's safe to say Marineford's peak.
Yeah. I don't even want to talk about this too much because I think people just need to watch it and
enjoy it.
Enjoy it because this is the best of One Piece.
We get a lot here. We get epic fights. There's a lot of suspense build. Is Whitebeard coming?
A lot of emotions.
Is Whitebeard not coming?
Yeah.
Well, spoiler alert, he's coming. And turns out, old man may be dying of cancer no jitsu, but man be packing a punch.
Heck yeah.
A lot of annoying things also happen in this arc, like some things involving Whitebeard by his own sons, quotations, which they're just manipulating. Anyways, we see the 3 admirals. We see the fleet admiral. We have Garp up here. We have Garp talking to Ace being like, if you would have just been a Marine, this never would have happened. You know, stuff like that. Real emotional scenes. Real epic fights. We get to see Luffy popping off with his first real expression of Conqueror's Haki in a still not a controlled state. Very similar to how he uses it on Amazon Lily. But it's where... Since it's in front of the Marines, it's the first extent of being like, oh, this guy really is going to be a real problem now.
Yep.
And he earns the respect of Whitebeard. He stands right next to Whitebeard, not giving a crap of who he's standing next to, and is like, we need to save Ace, old guy.
Yeah.
Like, and everyone's like, you can't say that to Pops. And Whitebeard's just like, who the hell do you think you are? And he's like, I'm Ace's brother. And he's like, oh my, and he just laughs it off like, okay. But yeah, overall the arc is great. We see a lot of great fights.
Yep.
We see all the warlords fighting. So we see Mihawk there. He's fighting. It is just complete and utter chaos.
We'll talk about the smaller, because I don't want to reveal like the big things that happen.
I feel like we have to. If we're talking about the big things in all the arcs, we're gonna have to mention it. Where if you're at this point, there's gonna be major spoilers for this arc
because this is the peak.
There are big things that happen, and I think. Obviously, the most heartbreaking thing is there's 2 versions of this that are absolutely heartbreaking to me. The whole goal of this is to save Ace.
Yep.
Excluding all the crazy fights that are happening, we get to the point where, because at this point, Ace accepts that he's dead. He does not want all these people dying for him. Mm-hmm. He'd rather just die and have everyone be safe. We eventually get to the point where Ace finally accepts that he wants to still live.
Yep.
During this moment, Luffy has to punch his own grandpa to get to his brother. And we reach a point where we actually think Ace is saved. Ace and Luffy are leaving. They're leaving together. Smile on Ace's face.
Everything's good to go.
Everything's good to go. Luffy drops Ace's Viva card.
Yep.
And then there's an ace in the hole. Which is,
It's hard.
Luffy looks up, and there's a fist through his brother.
Yep.
His brother's been fisted. Fire Fist Ace.
Has been fisted.
Yeah, it's, I believe this was Admiral Akainu, who ends up using his Magma Devil Fruit, which, fun fact, we learn is kind of a counter to fire because it is hotter than fire. And if you're later on in One Piece, I'm sure he was using Haki as well.
Yep.
And he goes right through Ace. And when he was about to attack Luffy, Ace jumps in front to save his brother, who ironically was there to save him.
Yep. Whew. Emotional.
And Luffy is just stunned.
Yep.
Basically goes unconscious during this. Jinbei ends up saving him from that. And so obviously that's heartbreaking seeing that. Mm-hmm. But the thing that also gets you is this whole time Garp has such an act on that he doesn't care about Ace being executed. He broke the law. This is what you get for breaking the law and not becoming a Marine. But the second Ace is actually dead,
it hits him.
Garp, especially if you are if you're caught up in the manga, you know what Garp is truly capable of.
That's an understatement,
right? Like,
yeah.
And Sengoku has to force Garp's face into the ground, and Garp is like, "That's right, Sengoku. You better hold me down, because if you don't, I'm killing Akainu."
Yep.
And that just, knowing how Garp is in his relationship with the world government, like with the Marines, his like justice, his, it's shaky, but he is a person of true justice.
Yeah.
Not true justice. I shouldn't say that. That's more Akainu. He just sees things as black and white, and if you're a pirate, you're bad. Garp is more of like on the lines of like, if you're a good person, like you could theoretically be a pirate and be a good person. Still,
yeah, exactly.
Which is Luffy to a tier.
Yeah.
To a T, I'm sorry. And just seeing how distraught he was after that, like that he was willing to kill a Marine for killing his son. Let's face it.
Yeah, basically.
It's basically his son. During this arc, also, we've totally glazed over, but fun fact, Ace actually is Goldie Roger's son.
Which is huge reveal.
Who asks Garp to take care of.
Yes.
That Garp does, because they were searching for all these kids, was searching for Goldie Roger's kid to kill him.
Yep.
And Garp knew who it was and protected him and kept him safe.
Yeah. This is also when it's revealed to the world who Luffy's family is too.
That is also true.
Because that's a big thing.
But his name's Monkey D. Dragon. I guess on his water poster it probably just says Dragon.
Yeah, I think it does just say Dragon.
But yeah, and obviously Sengoku was like, your family caused me a lot of trouble and problems. But yeah, that was just a really sad scene. The way Luffy reacts, the way Garp reacts, and that's when you know that, yeah, Garp is it's a facade. He cares about Luffy and Ace. It doesn't matter that they chose to be pirates. He still loves them in his own weird way.
Yeah. Other things too, some random guy named Sabo gets introduced.
Well, no, that's this.
No, it gets it's
he's
before
name dropped.
He's name dropped.
He's name dropped.
Yeah.
The actual importance of Sabo is the post arc.
Exactly.
Post-war arc.
Jinbei goes, haha, I'm not gonna be a warlord anymore.
Well, he saves Luke basically by opposing.
Yeah, he renounces it.
Yeah, he opposes it. He basically says like, I'm there to save Ace.
Yeah.
Which, gives it up, which is bad for Fishman Island, but we'll touch on that later. And he saves Luffy. Luffy ends up getting obviously struck by the manga fruit, causing his iconic scars.
Yep.
And as all this fighting and chaos and death is going on, who better than to show up at the last minute while Kobe is popping off, being like, "What's the point anymore?" And he's about to get Ace in the hold there by Akainu, who this is just proof of his black and white version of justice, which is Kobe understands that what are we even fighting for at this point?
We also see his hockey.
That's
true.
First time. He uses Conqueror's hockey for the first time, but he's fighting for the fact that Ace is dead. That was the goal.
Yep.
Why are we still fighting? Why must Marines die? Let's just
no one else has to die.
And Akainu's like, hell no, I'm about to whoop your ass and kill your ass because you oppose me. And who better to show up in the most badass way than the red hair crew and Shanks blocking that fist? And he said something along the lines of like, I think he says something along the lines of, better word. I couldn't have said it better myself, or something along those lines.
Yeah, very Shanksy.
Yeah, and he just has such a great speech of, basically, it ends up being, if you guys are still ready to fight, we're fresh and ready. Another Yonko crew basically is fresh and ready to fight, and the Marines are just like
it's about that time we get out of here.
Yeah, Sengoku's like, he's like, curse you, red hair.
Yeah, I don't get you next time.
Basically, he ends the war.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Really badass. Other big things is, obviously, Whitebeard ends up dying, trying to save one of his sons. Mm-hmm. Killed, basically, by one of his sons, because Blackbeard ends up taking Whitebeard's power.
Yep.
So, the only person in the One Piece world to this date that we know that has 2 devil fruits. That's pretty significant. One of the 4 emperors dying, significant.
Yep.
And it's that's sad. Seeing how the Whitebeard and all the people that were close to Whitebeard being really depressed is pretty sad. The Luffy thing is sad. He ends up getting saved by, I believe, Trafalgar Law is there, and he ends up going in the sub.
I think so.
Another key moment of this arc is the true tale of Buggy the Clown begins.
Yes.
It is discovered that Buggy was on Goldie Roger's crew. He ends up getting a large following of that escapees from impel down, who are strictly following Buggy the Clown because 1, was on Goldie Roger's crew. 2, Shanks recognizes him. And it's like, hey, Buggy.
Yeah, he's like, what's going on,
Buggy
man?
hates Shanks, but everyone's like, wow, he's all buddy-buddy with Shanks. And thus begins the story
of how epic
of how
Buggy the Clown.
Buggy the Clown.
Buggy the Clown.
We don't know if he's a D, though.
No, we don't.
But Buggy ends up amassing a massive armada, basically.
Yeah.
Because of just technically not lies.
Just not full truths.
But just off of name.
Yeah.
That is how he, not strength, but name.
Which his name is the only thing that's carrying
which
him.
you can respect because he ends up using it to the utmost, but still.
Exactly.
Luffy ends up escaping with Law. Shanks ends the war. Death on both sides. Some hockey discoveries.
Yeah.
And just a tragic arc where I think one of the saddest things, and I know we all know that this is how the crew felt, is that the Straw Hat crew was not there to help Luffy, and one you could argue is one of the most
sad
and needed his friends. Like they were not there when he needed them most.
Yep.
And it's not their own fault for not being. It's not their fault for not being there. But
it's
they all feel.
Yeah,
like
they feel it. Yeah.
And that hits hard. Which then leads into the final part we'll talk about for this episode, which is the post-war arc, which covers basically it covers before we get into the flashback.
Yeah.
It covers the plan.
Yep.
Luffy understands that they are both from Sabaody and from this war, that him and his crew are not ready yet. So he makes the call that they are going to train for 2 years.
Yep.
They're going to meet back at the Sabaody Archipelago in 2 years' time, and they will be ready.
Dun, dun, dun.
And he gets that message to his crew, and they all take it to heart, and they all do anything in their power to also train as hard as they possibly can so that they are all ready to be together again and never have something like this happen again. For Luffy, the big thing is he never wants to lose someone he loves because of his own weakness.
Yep, exactly.
And that's sad. Now, the fun part about the flashback is that we meet Sabo. We get to see Kid Ace, Kid Luffy, and just the interaction of these 3 young
wholesome
lads.
kids.
Just fun, stealing from bandits and all that type of stuff. Just normal kid crap. Stealing from the rich, giving to the poor. Sabo being rich, but hating the rich. Just very interesting stuff. Fun. Where did I put it on my stuff now that I'm looking? Post-war. I put it as an A tier.
A tier? Okay. Actually, yeah, the same.
I really enjoy seeing...
It's not fun. That's not the right word.
Ace is a fan favorite, and for how little he's in the story, it is remarkable how liked he is. And this just helps that.
Yeah.
We see Ace die, and when we get to see... As opposed to a character being so built up and then seeing them die, that's a very common trope, I feel like, in anime and manga, where someone's built up and you're like, oh no.
They're going to die soon.
And then they die. This is like almost the opposite, where we really didn't get much of Ace.
No.
Before he passes away.
Alabasta.
He's not there that long.
But that's what I mean. Like, that's when we kind of see him a bit.
And we see that fight with Blackbeard.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And they're like, you're going to die now.
Yeah, and then the moment at Marineford. And it's like, it's sad that we don't get much, but man, is it felt still. And then the post-war arc of that flashback, we get to meet Sabo. We meet Luffy at a young age and the impacts that his brothers, even though maybe not by blood, had on him. And we see also Ace display Conqueror's Hockey in this flashback.
Yep.
And just based on his strength, he definitely could have used Conqueror's Hockey, and there's a few reasons people speculate he never used it. One is that he gave up his dream to be the king of the pirates to allow Whitebeard to be king of the pirates, and a lot of people say that maybe that's one of the reasons he almost lost the ability to use Conqueror's Hockey because he no longer had that will, that desire to be the supreme king,
Mm-hmm.
And hilariously, in a sad, depressing way, we watch them as they lose their brother.
Yep.
in a flashback.
Yeah.
So it's not only do we watch Luffy lose his one brother that we thought he only had, we get to watch him lose both brothers in a very short span of time.
Yeah.
Sabo was definitely a really cool kid.
Yep.
His impact was definitely large on those two characters. Obviously, we
Ace
originally
has the tattoo too.
Well, we see Ace and Luffy have the shared sake, and there's a shadow that somehow people, and one that Oda put in.
Yeah.
And then two that people noticed, and then we see that there was a third cup. It's Sabo. Like you said, there's an S that's crossed out on Ace's arm to be homage to his fallen brother.
Yep.
And that both Ace and Luffy carry Sabo in their dreams as they became pirates.
Exactly.
You know, Sabo may not have been able to do that, but they'll do it for Sabo. And yeah, it was an impactful arc in terms of we just saw Ace die, and now we're getting all of this backstory of what he meant to Luffy. And obviously we see the other brother, what he meant to Luffy. And we get to see where the Straw Hats are and that they have a plan. And with that being said, we have a plan. We just do part 3.
Exactly. So stay tuned. And if you made it this long in the episode, we appreciate it.
It's true. This is a long one. But yeah, part 3 will be on everything post-time skip.
Heck yeah.
Which is from the return to the Sabaody Archipelago all the way to Egghead Island. Which could be like a month from now when that episode airs. So read your One Piece, watch your One Piece if you want, and join us. Make your own tier list. Check out the link tree in the description. Join us on Discord. Feel free to ask questions in the question corner, and feel free to post your One Piece tier list in the Discord.
Heck yeah. Until then, we will talk to you guys soon. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Hell yeah.
Bye.
TNMP, the Nerdy Misfit Podcast. Don't forget to join the island by dropping a follow. Thank you. And see you next week.